Welcome back to another weekly reset. All right, if you are new here, the weekly reset is just the beginning part of the week where we just kind of take a few minutes to check and see if we're hitting all of our self care points. All right, even if we're not hitting all of our self care points, we need to take some time to focus on self care because you could go through the whole day without even thinking about self care, talking about it or whatever. Like you could just be focused on whatever you got to do. It could be work, it could be kids, it could be whatever. Excuse my ghetto dog because he's a big dog up here. If we go outside, he's gonna be quiet. Okay. Anyway, he also likes to start barking and doing stuff like that once I'm filming. So for all of my pet parents out there, I feel like I know you understand. Okay. Anyway, but the point is, we meet here weekly because anything that you want to get better at or turn around or, let's just leave it at get better at, right? Anything that you want to get better at, if you spend just a few minutes a day on it, you can't help but to get better, all right? Because, for instance, I took Spanish back in the day, and I know a lot of people probably did that. We had to take it in high school, and it's some stuff that I remember, like the days of the week. I know how to count from 1 to 10. I know just certain words, right? Because I never used it. And so, Duolingo, right? I was like, fine, I'll just do a little bit a day and just see what's going on, right? And I'm on 100 and something day streak right now. Me and my son, he's ahead. He's like 20 days ahead of me. But the point is, a little bit at a time, right? Is the point. And so that's kind of it's that focus. It's that focus that you said, okay, I'm gonna spend at least this amount of time doing this a day, and that's what you need to do with yourself. You need to be like, it doesn't matter what's going on. For me, it has to be the start of the day. I start off and I think, what do I need? What will make this week feel great, or not even feel great, but how do I want to feel at the end of the week? And then I make sure I check my basics for that. All right, so that's what it is. The weekly reset is just the top of the week to be like, hey, hello, don't forget yourself, or whatever, right? And so this week I wanted to talk about like just returning to the basics because self-care really is basic. There are levels of self-care, and people like to go to the spa and brunch and all types of other things, but self-care really is basic because how well you take care of yourself, that is what everything else relies on. All right, because if you're not showered and ready to go when it's time to go somewhere, like how helpful are you going to be, or how good of an impression are you going to make? Because you're not going to feel good about yourself because you stink, and people aren't going to feel good about you because you stink. So like the basics are what you need to focus on. All right, so that is what I'm here to talk about today. And in order for us to talk about that, I'm going to use myself. All right. Every Sunday or Monday, like today is happens to be a holiday. I don't know when you're catching this episode, but today happens to be a holiday, and so I'm treating it like my Sunday, right? And so I'm thinking about, what do I want to eat this week? What kind of snacks do I see on my plate? Because I'm a snacker, okay? And so I'm not going to stop snacking just because I want to get in shape. I'm just going to figure out different snacks to eat, right? And this week is carrot ribbon salad, all right? Don't judge until you tried it. But anyway, so that's part of my reset. I'm thinking about what things do I want to eat? What do I want for breakfast? I'm a tea drinker. And so I'm like, what kind of teas do I need to have this week, right? Because that's going to be part of my hydration, all right? And then I'm thinking about, what do I want to have for dinner? So that's my self-care part, right? And yeah, of course, I have professional goals and things I have to do for that. But the main important thing is that I make sure that I have everything to take care of my basic needs. It's like charging your phone. Like you wouldn't not charge your phone, right? So that's kind of what self-care really is. It's pretty basic, all right? And I feel like I can use this analogy of it, right? Say everybody should be familiar with the dishwasher, okay? And sometimes when you load that dishwasher and you try to close the door, sometimes it's like it won't close. Why does that happen? It might not happen, but every so often. But when that happens, what do, right? You should just check the basics. Is everything out of the way? Okay, because for me, it's usually a fork or a knife or something that's too tall in the wrong place or whatever that stops it. But you have to stop and check the fundamentals, check the basics. It's the same thing with you. If everything feels harder than it should, right? What's going on with your basics? How many hydrating drinks have you had? Are you eating food that actually is helping your body or good for your body, right? Are you moving your body? How's your prayer and reflection? Like, have you gotten enough sleep? Like, if you have not checked those 5 things, anything else is irrelevant, because you need to make sure the basics are where they're supposed to be before you can go and do that. So everybody kind of skips that, and people put their self on the back burner, and they wonder why everything feels so hard. It's because you are skipping the main point in everything. You're not taking care of yourself, okay? And then everybody likes to talk about the future you, right? And I just want to say that, I mean, this should be kind of like obvious, right? But it's really not, because you really think that your future self is going to be this amazing person that's going to come rescue present you from your problems. And that's not what's going to happen. It's actually the other way around, right? You right now is the person that's going to do the work. You're the person that's going to start the workout. You're the person that's going to come up with the idea. You're the person that's going to implement the idea. You're the person that is maintaining the house that future you is going to live in. All right. Future you knows how to do all the stuff that they know how to do, because present you actually learned it, practiced it, and things like that. Okay. So what you need to think about is how present you is taking care. What is present you doing for future you? Because future you is just chilling and reaping the benefits of everything that you did. All right. So once you start looking at it like that, it's like, okay, I really have to get up and do something. You know what I mean? So it's not about becoming a new person or becoming somebody else. It's about nurturing the you that you already are. Like I said, it goes back to basics. It's just like a baby, right? If I'm going to go watch my nephew, which I need to go see my nephew anyway because he was sick. So shout out to him and give him some positive vibes so that he gets better. But it's just like a baby. Like, the baby is going to be fine as long as they have on a clean diaper, they have a full belly, they're clean, and they are being, paid attention to. Like, it's like checking those basics when a baby is upset usually fixes everything unless they're sick, because that they're content. And so that's what checking your basics is. Because imagine rushing to work without paying attention to yourself to get there and serve these people, and you haven't taken care of any of your basics. Like, how are you going to feel, right? How good of a job are you going to do? Like, you're going to process things differently because you're going to be thinking about the fact that you skip some steps. You don't feel good about yourself. So I always say, if you are stuck and things feel harder than they should, or you feel like you're stuck, or you don't know where to start, you need to check on your hydration, check on your nourishment. Hydration. I almost said that wrong. Anyway, check on your hydration, check on your nourishment. How much sleep are you getting? Those things matter more than you think. All right. So that's your weekly reset. And before we get out of here, we're going to play One Thing Gotta Go, because I always like to leave you with a reflection question that makes you think, because your most important thing that you're ever going to do is yourself. All right. And so the work of that we're doing is just showing up. So you've done your part this week by showing up, because you're keeping you're keeping self-care at the forefront. And that's what we want to do, because self-care actually matters daily, but you got to crawl before you walk. So if you're not a person who's in the self-care daily, we're going to get you there. All right. But the point is that you just need to show up and spend a little time thinking about it, because now that we've discussed this, we've had this little chat, you're not going to be able to get yourself off your mind. And that's the whole point. Okay. There's no challenge to be done. There's nothing. It just requires you to show up. All right. So with that being said, we're going to play One Gotta Go. All right. And let's see, this is my gratitude jar. And I got a bunch of different, I guess I'll call them prompts. If you're a person that journals, you can write, we're going to do one each week. You can write it down and see what you come up with. All right. So this is where's the camera? This is it. One thing before we go. All right. And this week's One Thing Before We Go prompt is, what have you been skipping because it feels too simple? Now, I'm going to go ahead and answer that for y'all. Y'all can put y'all answers below, or you can just keep it to yourself, write it in your journal. But definitely answer that question. What is one thing that you've been skipping? What was the question? Hold on, let me read it again, because I forgot. All right, what was it? What have you been skipping because it feels too simple? Now, oh my goodness, this could be a number of things for me. Okay, I could think of a number of things, but one of the things that I have been skipping is taking my vitamins. All right. It feels too simple. It's not that I don't want to, they're just there, and I just keep skipping them. I ran out of the liquid vitamins last week, and so for 4 days I have not taken any vitamins, right? And I don't know. But the work, like I said, is showing up and becoming aware. Now that I just said that, because I wasn't even thinking about that. Now that I just said that, I'm gonna make it a point to take my vitamins. All right. And usually I do, but something about the running out of the one that I wanted and not having the other one just kind of led me to a different habit. So that's the whole point of self-care, okay? Like paying attention to your self-care, all right? And so with that being said, also, that's why I created the Self-Care Collective, because it's a weekly practice space for people who want to pay better attention to themselves. And that's all it is about. It's just noticing, becoming aware of it, and doing something about it, all right? Focusing on the basics, because they spill out everywhere. If you arrive to work and you are well fed, you're rested, you've already, poured into yourself for the day or whatever, you're going to be the best version of yourself. So any questions people ask you, any work that you got to do, anything you got to perform, you're going to give the best version of yourself. Any performance you got to do, you're going to give the best version of yourself, because you made sure that that's how you arrived. It don't matter how much money you got. It don't matter how much money you don't got. It just matters how much time and how much intention you pour into yourself to be able to go do whatever it is, right? You can't do a better job because you're skipping you. You're getting there, you're showing up as half a person, and then you're upset that you didn't get the job, you didn't get the opportunity or whatever, and you already in a depleted situation, and now you're going to be in an even more depleted situation because you're not checking the basics. I don't know. I can say it so many different ways, but I hope that makes sense, because once I realized that, and I just start focusing on the basics, yes, it's not to say that everything goes smoothly and easily, but it goes so much better, and my life experience is so much better day to day because I'm focusing on me first. All right, that's all I'm saying. Self-care matters daily. Get down in the comments below. Let me know if that makes sense to you. We're gonna see y'all next week at the weekly reset, but keep your eye out for the midweek check-in, because I'm gonna drop in and check in how y'all doing on YouTube, okay? But if you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you share this with anybody who you feel they need to pay more attention to self-care. Everybody. Self-care is for everybody. Men, women, everybody. All right? Anyway, I'm your girl, Demita, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.